again to the Real Collective podcast. My name is Brendan McKeigan. With me, as always, is Sean Tasse. If you're having a good time on these episodes, give us a like, subscribe, on share on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Whatever. That would be great. Run us in the background. It's fantastic. Anything you can do to help. If you find something helpful, put it in the comments. We want to hear from you. Or if you just want to talk to us, book an appointment in the Calendly links below. You just have questions. Otherwise, we got a bunch of free resources for you at realcollective.ca. Today, I have Sean with me, as always. Sean, how are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you. I'm excited. This is episode 1 of season 5. Can you believe we're on season 5 of this podcast already?
Wow, 5 years.
5 seasons, 5 years. It's been less than 1 year.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I think we're having a lot of fun. We're opening up a lot of doors and revealing a lot of stuff behind the curtains to folks these days, and hoping to do as best as we can to demystify, the situation, the scenario.
Yeah, help you feel more at ease.
Yeah,
to move on with what you got to do, and that's where we're at today. We're going to talk about striking while the iron's not plugged in. The iron was hot for a while, and a lot of people had to strike, and they had to strike hard and fast and have no conditions. But now we are in a spot, buyers out there, and we're focusing on you today to help you find what you're looking for and still give you that protection you need. That's been the biggest thing over the last few years is people haven't been wanting to get into bidding wars. They don't want to compete. They don't feel right about putting an offer in without conditions. Well, now's your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know how long that time's going to last for. Right? Yeah. Is the market going to change drastically? Is it going to fall down further where prices go further down? Is it going to go up? And I think a lot of the reason why it seems that buyers who would otherwise be motivated or sort of sitting on the fence is the uncertainty in the marketplace. The uncertainty leads to inaction on behalf of the buyers. So there's a great opportunity. There's a book, a really good book that I haven't read, but I understand the premise of it, which is called Zag. I don't know if it's called Zag or Zig, but whatever it is, whatever everybody else is doing, you want to be doing the opposite thing, right? So if everybody's zigging, you want to zag, and if everybody's zagging, you want to zig. And so the idea is a lot of people are sort of waiting on the sidelines to see what happens. And the smart move is not to do that. The smart move is to do the opposite thing.
Yeah, a lot of people miss out for that reason and have. Even when it was definitely more of a seller's market, there was still those instances where people could pick up a great buy and slept on it, and now it's gone, right? So at least now we're in a scenario where, you know what, maybe you don't have to get that inspection before an offer date done. Maybe you can have it as part of your offer. Same with financing. Like if you needed that in there, you should have a pre-approval first. But you never know how these things happen, right? So sometimes it's just you fall in love with a house and you're like, let's go. Maybe right as you start looking. So there's a lot out there. The average days on market is definitely going up. So homes are sitting there for much longer than they did before. Normally it was you had your list date, your offer date, then it's done. And now that's not necessarily the case. Especially, neighborhoods are a big factor in it. Whatever neighborhood you're in, whatever type of house, if it's a home or a condo, wherever you're looking, that's something to keep an eye on. And I really think that if you do find a place you like and it comes out right away, yeah, you might still have to jump on it because you don't want the seller to think that you're too eager or whatever. But at the end of the day, if it's the house you want and you're going to be there for that long, it's not going to matter anyway for whatever you negotiate down at that time over the course of a mortgage.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So two great points you made. So yesterday we had the office meeting where all the agents in the office got together and talked about sort of the state of affairs and where we're at and what's going on. And we had some bankers join us on the call and explain like what's happening right now. So yes, pre-approval is important, but also putting a financing condition in your offer allows you to ensure that sure, you're approved, but to also make sure that the house gets approved. A lot of times, as the market's moving downwards, what the bank uses is not just sold properties, but sold and closed properties. So what's actually like people have moved into and closed on it, and money is transferred hands at the lawyer's office, and they go back using Geo Warehouse or Terranet. They go back for 30 days. And it could be the case, especially if the market starts to shift upwards again, that what closed in the last 30 days might have sold 2 months ago, right? And so they're having issues. Sometimes they're having issues with getting approvals complete. And so make sure that as you're going through this process that you're working with a qualified mortgage broker or someone at the bank who knows what they're doing, not just someone says, oh yeah, hey, you know what, you're good. You if all you're doing is telling them how much money you make and they say, oh yeah, you're good, that's not enough. Right? You need somebody who's a professional who understands, and some of the professionals that we work with are really good at stick handling tricky situations. So we can help connect you with the right people, not because it gives us anything, but because it will give you access to quality professionals. The other piece you mentioned, Brendan, is about sort of days on market. And I mean, if you're looking at a townhouse in Barrhaven or Orleans or really anywhere in the city right now, there's lots to choose from, right? So there's no real rush to go out and buy a townhouse in one of these, standard areas of the city. But if you've got a bit of a unicorn property, there are still agents who are experiencing multiple offers, selling properties before they come to the market, off-market sales happening, multiple bids driving the price up $100,000 over the list price. It still is happening. And so navigating the fact that there's so much discrepancy in the market right now, it'll be important to hire an agent who understands what's going on and what might happen in all of these different scenarios, because it's not just, oh, well, it's all like this now, or it's all like that now. Right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Like I know that a lot of people are looking outside of the city, because like the immediate Ottawa proper, past the green belt, and sometimes even further past that. So you're getting into homes that maybe have well and septic and stuff like that. And man, even in multiples, I can't imagine sleeping on like a septic inspection or something like that's huge to me. So at least now there's the peace of mind. Luckily, any clients that I've had who've looked at a place that had well or septic, we had both in the offer. I just told them, like, listen, if for some reason that septic bed is Kaputski, then you're looking at another like 30 grand or something on top of the price of the house. So Kaputski. Yeah, I know. I haven't used that word in so long.
When was the last time you used the word Kaputski?
Man, I don't know. Probably when I was trying not to swear in front of people. It's gone Kaputski.
Yeah, that is a great one.
Yeah, but that's but that's the reality of it. Is like I think if you are one of those buyers that was like, no, man, I can't do it, and maybe there was a lot of things holding you back. Hopefully now you feel a little bit more comfortable, and if you need some more reassurance, talk to a realtor. If it's us, even better. But at the same time, there's always going to be people who are like, oh, I'm going to wait for there it is, I knew it was going to be one. There's always going to be people who are I'm going to wait for prices to come down. I'm going to wait for prices to come down. And like, no matter what, there could be a crash, and like the States had, where like foreclosures everywhere, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna wait for prices to come down. Like, to what? Everybody wants something for nothing, and that's what it comes down to, right?
So they give me the house and pay me. Here's the thing: we track the historic impacts of average prices in Ottawa. And we've had two other times before this time where we saw 20% growth in 1 year. Now, this time we saw 20% growth 2 years in a row, which is, amazing. But we've had this same history happen in the past. And what happens the year following is not a reduction in price by, a couple of percent. You don't typically see that until a couple of years down the road. And a couple of years down the road, by the time you get there, we're still having another 8, 7, 6% growth per year on the tail end of a 20% growth per year. That's probably what we're going to wind up with this year, year over year, even though we went up 20%, 23% last year and 20% the year before that, and 9% the year before that. I mean, there's this compounding factor where, yes, if you look at it as a month over month, over the course of the last 6 months, the average price of residential house has come down by $150,000. But it was also artificially inflated earlier this year with crazy sale prices in February and March, and even to some extent April. So saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to wait for the prices to come down," stop waiting. The prices have come down. And now, people are saying, "Oh, well, I don't want to buy because the interest rates are too high." Well, it's like, what is it? I want to wait for the prices to come down. Okay, the prices come down. Well, the prices come down, but the interest rates are high. Well, they go together, right? So your payment winds up being the same. The difference is there's more potential for an equity build. The fact that the prices have come down so much recently, and the interest rates have been historically low. They're more in line now with what they typically would be. So your payments might be the same, even though the price of the house is lower and the interest rates are higher. Your payments might be the same, but your potential for equity build is higher. And really, if you're going to be there 5 to 10 years, your payments are your payments. And that's the thing that's important. Can you live your life month to month? Your payments are your payments. And, if the prices, they're not, if you're 6 months to a year, well, what the prices are fluctuating month over month is really important. But if you're, 5, 10, 20, 30 years, it kind of doesn't matter, right? Houses on average will go up by 6% per year, and they have over the last 60 plus years. So, when you look at it from a long point of view, the reasons to not move forward start to get pretty silly.
Yeah. And that's people who will maybe just talk a big game, or tire kickers, as they're often referred to. But if you are of the mindset of, I'd really like to get a house, or especially first-time homebuyers out there, with all the new and existing first-time homebuyer incentives and credits that are available, compound that with the prices of homes and where they're at now, it's a good time to scoop something. And I don't know how many people buy their first home and think, I'm going to keep this for as long as I can. When I move out, I'm going to take the equity and buy something else and then rent out the place that you lived in before. A lot, like, that was the plan for a lot of people. And a lot of people have done that with townhouses. They bought them when townhouses were more around the 350 price point. And now they're set in that regard. And it's a big part of your portfolio to be able to have an income property, even if it's just something that's just sort of passive income, where they're just paying off the mortgage on something essentially for you. Yes, I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, but as a renter, that's that's what you're doing. You're paying off someone else's mortgage.
Yeah. Getting on that property ladder. The biggest eye opener for me when I bought my first house was how much other people wanted to lend me money. So your house turns into like a big piggy bank for you. At first, before I owned a house, people were like, "No, I'm not giving you a credit card. I'm not giving you a credit card." Then after you buy a house, we're like, "Hey, you want a credit card? You want a credit card?" It's like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah.
Like, I'm already, because when you first move in, you're house poor, right? Like, it's tight. It's like, I'm making my own coffee. I'm not buying coffee at the store anymore. I'm making my own breakfast. I'm not buying breakfast at the store anymore. Like, it's tight when you move into a new place.
I feel like I've always just made my own coffee.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. I'm that bougie MF. You brought up a good term before, and I think I would love if we can figure out a different word for it.
Is it Kaputski?
What's that? No, no, Kaputski, we already hit. Today is the show of other terms. Tire kickers. There are no tires on a house, and
I know.
it's from the car dealership thing. We say it. I mean, we say it all the time. Oh, these people are, they're tire kickers or time wasters or whatever. I feel like we need to figure out a different term that refers to people who are like wasting time, or like open housers, or like foundation kickers or something. I'm just spitballing here. I'm trying to see if we can come up with something live.
What about seek and hiders?
Seek and hiders. We'll go on.
Like hide and seekers?
Yeah,
but it's the opposite. They're going to go find what they want, and then we're like, oh, isn't it a good fit? They go hide.
I found it. You want to buy it? No. Seek and hiders.
Oh, this is perfect. Oh, great. Do you want to make an offer? Oh, no.
No. The sky is falling. Yeah. I guess long and the short of it is the sky's not falling. We're on track to wind the year up with a positive growth, a lot less sales, a lot less transactions overall, and there's more inventory. So again, these are all good reasons why, as a buyer, you're in the strongest position you've been in the last 3 years as a buyer in today's market. So,
yeah. I mean, you're not going to get the prices from 3 years ago, but you're going to get maybe the prices from a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And especially house dependent. So who knows? Take a look there. If you do want to talk a little bit more about that, again, book an appointment in the Calendly links. We'll take a quick break. Like, subscribe, and share if you don't mind. That would be really great. Keep it real collective for about 3 minutes. We'll be right back.
This episode of the Real Collective podcast is brought to you by Real Collective. Real Collective brings together best-in-class real estate agents and collective experts in the field to deliver the best possible service to our clients. We govern ourselves with honesty, open-mindedness, and compassion. With diverse skill sets, our agents are able to better serve a wide array of clients, including first-time buyers, first-time sellers, transferees, estate sales, investors, and rural, vacation, and luxury properties. Authenticity and transparency are pillars of our process, which allows us to put our clients at the center of everything we do. Our years of experience and knowledge allow us to deliver prestigious service and optimal results. If you are interested in buying or selling your home, contact us today at realcollective.ca.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second half of today's RCP. Sean Tasse is still with me as always. And first half, we covered some stuff. Second half, we're going to cover some other stuff because that's how life works. Oh, man, here we go. Like, subscribe, and share the channel. We have to keep saying that so people keep doing it. So we talked in the first half about, okay, maybe it's a good time to buy. Maybe you found the house you want. Now what? Because that can be very overwhelming for people. So we'll just thought we'd touch again, maybe just a little bit lightly and quickly, and just the nuts and bolts of the offer process. Process, tomato, and what it looks like. So you find the home you like. Let's say I find the home I like, and I've already got a pre-approval. Let's just assume that. And I'm like, hey, I like that house, Sean. Now what?
Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome. You can buy it. And you're like, how do I buy it? So there's a process that we follow. Pretty simple. Or process.
Whatever. I say both.
What's that?
Just depends on the sentence I'm in, I think.
That's fair. It's a life sentence for doing this podcast. Just kidding. So I mean, the first step is if you say, hey, if we're working with a client that's a buyer client, and they say, hey, we're interested in buying this house. We'd like to put an offer in. Oh, okay, great. Perfect. Let's get started on the paperwork. Before we get started on the paperwork, as the agent, what we'll do is we'll reach out to the agent who's representing the seller, and we'll ask a bunch of questions. What's the motivation? Why are they selling? Have you had any other offers? If you did, what happened with them? Is there anything that you need to disclose to us about the house? Is it haunted? Was it used as a grow up? Is there, anything? Was there ever a leak in anywhere? Tell us about the neighborhood. Really, we're trying to dig and get as much information as we can, because in negotiations, information is power, right? there could be the fact that agents love talking. It could be the fact that, hey, they're getting divorced, and now we found out they're getting divorced and they just need to get out of this house. You don't know. We don't know what it is until we ask all of those different questions. So we ask and we ask and we ask and we ask until we find out everything that we can, which will give you, as our buyer client, the ammunition to put in the best possible offer that should be able to get accepted. You want to find out, is there a potential for you to be in competition? Is there somebody else who might be also interested in submitting an offer? If we submit our offer, how long will you take to be able to present the offer? So we can start to figure out how we're going to fill out the agreement of purchase and sale. So we use the Form 100, which is a standard OREA agreement of purchase and sale. It's not our Real Collective form. It's not RE/MAX's form. It's everybody in Ontario who's buying and selling a house uses that same form, that same document. And on that document, we fill in the important stuff. At the beginning, we fill out the names of the sellers, the names of yourselves, the buyers, and then we start to go through and figure out, okay, well, what's the address? What's the legal description? What's the offer price that you'd like to make? What's the deposit amount that you'd like to make? Typical deposits in the past in Ottawa have been 1 or 2%. They might be as high as 5%, just really depending on how much money you have saved up and what you have for liquid cash available. The cash doesn't have to be made of water, but you do need to be able to access it, i.e., write a check. Sadly, a lot of times the brokerage who you're sending the check to doesn't have electronic fund transfer available, or if they do, there's a cap or a limit. So having your money sitting in a bank account that you have a check that goes along with it will be very helpful. And then we continue, filling out the space on the offer. There's a lot of pre-printed stuff in that offer, but the stuff that we're filling out is really what's important. When would you like to move into your home? We're giving you the offer. How long is it good for? What's included in the house? Are there, appliances included? Are they not included? Are there things that are not included? For example, if there's a hot tub, maybe that's not included in the house. You thought it might have been, but in reality, they're not giving it to you. Or maybe it's a piece for negotiation. Maybe some of the furniture in the house is a piece for negotiation. Right? And then eventually there's more legalese, and then we all have a signing page, and then after that signing page, we start to write some of the different clauses, right? And so that's what we were talking about before. There's a finance clause or a condition. There's a home inspection condition. There's a condo. Maybe there's a status certificate review condition by the lawyer. If it's a country property, there's a well and a septic inspection. And all those things are done for you as the buyer for your protection. All that's written out, and that's what one of the things that we do. And then you sign it. And we send it over to the listing agent. And the listing agent takes it and reviews it with their client. They can do one of three things. They can counter the offer and say, "Hey, you know what? We're listed for $800,000. You've offered us $750. We're giving you a counter offer for $790," for example. And then you've got to go back and forth until you find a middle ground somewhere, or maybe I'm only giving $750. Who knows? It's all in negotiations. They're all always different. They can counter the offer, they can accept the offer, or they can simply reject it and say, "No, try again," right? Which is they're all different negotiation strategies, and a lot of it has to do with the conversations that the agents are having together. Ultimately, it's the decision of the seller client, what they want to accept and do, and the decision of the buyer client, what they want to submit and are willing to accept as a counteroffer. But the agents are talking the good agents are talking in advance and finding a way to bring it together. There are some agents who don't talk. They just send in an offer and you kind of didn't know that there was an offer coming. And that makes it a little bit harder to deal with. But you deal with it, you roll with it. So that's the real fast synopsis, nuts and bolts.
Yeah. And I think that big thing that especially new buyers need to be wary of, or just aware of, not wary, but having an actual deposit. And when you say typically 1 to 2% of the purchase price, sure. In the last year, maybe two, I feel like it's just been 10,000. You can sometimes get away with 5 now. That seems to be okay sometimes, but a lot of people, like, if it's not a $10,000 deposit, they're like, meh.
I've seen them as high as like 100,000.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, it's one thing in Ottawa that's like, you can go and buy a car and you need to give them $1,000 deposit. You can go buy a house and you can get away with just a $5,000 deposit. It seems like it should be more, because if you're really putting 5% down, you need to have that money somewhere. And then sometimes the money is sitting in a different account or an RRSP or RRSP, and you can't pull it out yet or whatever. And that's fine. But if you're buying a house, you need to have a good chunk of your change liquid, right? I guess it really depends on the purchase price of the house. I mean, if you're buying a $2 million house, someone would imagine that you've got 50 grand in the bank, right?
Yeah.
If you're buying a $400,000 house, then you might not.
Yeah. So the big things, if you're making an offer, that you should know is, as the buyer, the things that are really going to be what you need to think about are what your offer price is going to be, what your deposit's going to be, what your closing date what you would like your closing date to be, and then what the irrevocability of the offer would be. What's your irrevocable? Which is basically, the irrevocable just says, I'm giving you an offer right now. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday. You have until 11 a.m. on Thursday. And in between that time, you can't rescind your offer and take it back. At the end of that time, it's almost like the Thanos snap, where the offer never existed and it just sort of disappears. There's nothing in there unless you counter it or something and maybe bring it back to life. But otherwise, if it's just kind of ignored, your offer is just null and void, and it's like it never happened. So those are the ones that you got to keep track of or be mindful of. And then obviously your conditions, what's going to matter to you as a buyer, getting your home inspection in there, your financing, etc.
So the irrevocable is like a no take backsies.
Yeah, no takesies backsies.
And the important piece is all of these different pieces in the offer are negotiable. And they can all be used as negotiation tools instead of price. So for example, if you're willing to move into the house in October and for example, and this is why we ask these questions of the other agent, that the seller needs the closing to be in October because they're moving into their next house, you can give them an offer with a closing date in December and then say, hey, you know what, instead of changing the price, we can move our closing date up to the October that you want. And then the seller says, well, geez, you know what, they want December, but it's going to cost me $4,000 a month in carrying costs. So if they change their date from December back to October, that's like an $8,000 benefit to me as the seller. So now instead of negotiating on price, you're negotiating on terms. And that is how, as good agents, we're able to help you as the buyer client protect your equity when you're buying. There's some agents who will give kickbacks or stuff like that. We don't do any of that, but we use all of our skills and tricks and tips and abilities to benefit you as the buyer client. Now this is sounding like a sales pitch again, so I'll try and stop.
Yeah, but I think the Cole's notes is there as far as like, this is what the offer is. This is what you need to be mindful of. First half is more about the execution and the why. And then the second half that we covered, the how.
And then it goes back and forth until you finally get to a number that and terms and conditions that are agreeable to both parties.
Yeah.
And then you've got to fulfill your conditions. So typically you'll have a week to go through the process of hiring your home inspector, making sure that your lawyer is pulling the status certificate, hiring any other inspectors that you might need, giving all the paperwork to your mortgage broker. And it's like you've said before, it's like a SWAT team, right? It's go, go, go to get all of this work done, to get all the approvals done, review everything, and make sure that you're protected and you're comfortable moving forward with anything that you find, either through any of the inspections or in a status review or in speaking with the mortgage broker. Yesterday, when we had our our office meeting, one of the brokers was explaining, oh, somebody bought a house and thankfully they put a financing clause in, and turns out that they were not financially pre-approved at all. And so now they bought a $700,000 house, which they have to back away from. And the problem is every other house that they're going to find between now and what they can actually buy, which is closer to like 550 or 575, none of them are going to look as nice as that $700,000 house.
Yeah.
So, it just really puts you in a bad situation, a bad position, not getting that pre-approval up front. Even if you think you should be okay because someone said, oh yeah, hey, you make that much money, that's fine. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, exactly. So first step, go get pre-approved. Second step, book an appointment with us in the Calendly link below. We will wrap things up there. So if you want to talk to us, we're down there. Otherwise, like I said several times, like, subscribe, and share the channel. Download us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If we miss something that's just the nuts and bolts, not all the intricacies, put it in the comments below. Let us know. And maybe we'll cover it and give you a shout out on another show. So there it is, guys. We'll wrap things up for now. But thank you again for listening and watching. I am Brendan McKeigan. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.